Hi there, I'm Brian Whitmore, Director of the Russia program here at SIPA, and this is a vertical video. Vladimir Putin's moves to overhaul the Russian constitution and the accompanying government reshuffle demonstrated something obvious. Putin plans to remain Russia's de facto ruler pretty much indefinitely. But let's face it, we already knew that. And what we're learning now, data point by data point, is the mechanism by which he is seeking to achieve that goal. But last week's dramatic developments in Moscow and the ongoing fallout also illustrate something else. Something much more fundamental. Something that helps explain Russia's autocratic and arbitrary domestic politics, as well as its revanchist and aggressive foreign policy. What all this shows us is that Russia lacks one of the fundamental attributes of a modern state. It lacks a succession principle. It lacks a predictable mechanism for power to legitimately be transferred. And when a state lacks a stable and predictable succession principle, one thing that happens is that every transition becomes a potential crisis, as the ruling elite is forced to resort to dramaturgy, to manufacture drama in order to justify itself. Recall back in 2000, when Putin's rise to power was facilitated by those suspicious apartment bombings in Moscow and other cities, and the ensuing war in Chechnya. Now, back in 2011, when Putin and Dmitry Medvedev pulled off their infamous castling move, the ruling elite basically decided that it was not going to have a succession principle at all. The current regime was going to remain indefinitely. And that meant that the regime needed more than just some dramaturgy. It needed a legitimizing myth. It needed an ideology. And it's no accident that around this time, concepts like Eurasianism, the Ruski Mir, and great power imperialism went mainstream in Moscow. The annexation of Crimea and the invasion of the Donbass would soon follow. But even this wasn't enough. For in the eyes of the Putin regime, survival without a succession principle necessitated more than just a legitimizing myth. It necessitated that the stable, prosperous democratic states to Russia's west and the European Union that binds them together be delegitimized, stigmatized, and destabilized. Russia lacks one of the fundamental attributes of a modern state, and this goes a long way toward explaining the current conflict between Moscow and the West. Keep telling us what you think on Twitter and on Facebook. I'm Brian Whitmore, and this was a Vertical Video.